Well, it's an interesting evening tonight. We're coming remote from out of the studios, and we've got a big week planned that will culminate in next week's show. But in the meantime, I've given you the clue as to what's going to be happening next week. So without further ado, right at the very top of the totem pole is none other than my co-host, Andrena Forrest, broadcasting from the UK, and our guest who's sandwiched in between is also from the UK. And so, Andrena, take it away.
Hi, welcome everybody. It's tuned in to Dreaming a New Dream, wherever you are in the world. Welcome. And if you're listening to the replay, welcome. And today is the 1st of September 2022. Can you believe? Oh my gosh, the days are drawing in quicker here and it's getting chilly. And I don't think we've had summer yet, but that's another story. So today I would like to welcome back Mark Harris. And I've had the pleasure of working with Mark. I met him at the Healing Weekend and had a session with him because I was in a lot of pain, and since had a couple of other sessions with him. And I've also done workshops with him, dowsing workshops, and learning about muscle testing and all sorts of things. So today Mark is going to help and show us ways of dowsing, about energy, how you can test your energy field, your spirit body, where you want to live, and all sorts of amazing things. So welcome, Mark. It's lovely to have you back on the show again.
Right. Thank you very much, Andrena. Thank you, Jeff. Hello to everybody out there, wherever you are. And those who've heard me before, I gave quite a long discourse about how I came to do what I do, all the different therapies that I work with. The picture at the start of the show there, that's myself with my therapy dog, Dylan. He's an English Springer Spaniel. He often comes to sessions with me. He sniffs out trauma, sniffs out injuries. He'll sometimes bring in a toy. Sometimes he'll come and lie in a certain direction. He has no training in this. He just one day did it when I was working on someone's badly injured hands. Had a lady with lots and lots of scars on the hands. No idea how they happened. They happened 65 years ago. In those days, nobody was that interested how a child's hands got burnt. He came in, he licked her hand, she began to shake, and then she flashed back as to how her hands got burnt. You could see the whole thing unfolding in front of her. So I work with Dylan, and when I'm not working treating people, I'm teaching workshops about energy testing. And you could see energy testing would include things like dowsing. It would include things like muscle testing, whether you're testing with an arm, whether you're twiddling with your fingers, okay, putting little fingers, anything like that. They're all forms of energy testing. A lot of people, that's all they do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But of course, it would be ideal if you could move beyond needing to have a kind of a crude external measurement. What we really want to do is get in touch with our whole energy system. We want to know when it's expanding, when it's contracting, when a chakra is moving forward and a chakra is moving back, because that's what we're designed to be like. It's just that we forgot that we could do those things. And so my journey into this, with all my health problems, all of the challenges I had going on in life, I was exploring this, but I was doing the dowsing side, the energy testing, before I was even ill. And the dowsing thing basically came about one day. I'd had a small minor surgery, sitting at home, meant to be recuperating. And I thought, hey, this dowsing thing, you know, I knew all about it, never tried it. So I went and cut a piece of wood in the garden, walked around and nearly took the kneecaps off. And that's how the dowsing started. And that's some 15, 17 years ago now. And I was very good at finding things, very good at finding cables and pipes and water. And that took me to join the British Society of Dowsers as a member. Many years later, I found myself as a trustee, a council member. That's one of the people looking after the charity and one of my specialisms there. Because I knew how to teach, I wrote courses for awarding bodies as a daytime job to do with first aid, health and safety. So I used the same processes to begin to write dowsing, energy testing courses. That's pretty much how I started in that. So that was about 15, 17 years ago. So I've been energy testing, including dowsing, for an awful long time.
So that was in a quick nutshell.
Yep.
Yeah. So, okay. So, I mean, not everybody doses, and I know you can get, if you're not doing it right, you can get misinformation, you know, like
Absolutely.
people,
Yeah.
you know, I've got my pendulum here, which I'd got from you, because I know you talked about not having a pointy one.
Yeah. Okay. So
would you like to start with the basics? You know, why would
yeah. Okay.
Why have I gone for this one?
Right. So essentially, pretty much around the world, the most common pendulum that people will buy, if they're using a pendulum, many people won't. They'll just be using their hands, using a set of car keys, whatever they pick up. So the first thing we have to remember is that, you know, energy testing involving holding something in your hand, what you're holding in your hand is just an extension of your nervous system and an extension of you. So it's basically amplifying a signal that is already taking place that you aren't aware of, or you're not fully aware of. You might have your intuitive hunch about doing something, not doing something, going somewhere, not going somewhere. And so whatever you're holding in your hand is effectively an extension of you. And you'll notice that these oval pendulums here, they've got a little ball at the end. I'm just kind of just holding one up here. So there's the end that we'd normally be looking at, okay, watching. But the opposite end is a small ball. And one of the ways of getting more accurate results is making sure that the small ball is actually in the palm of the hand that's holding the pendulum. If I fold in my middle finger, okay, on that hand, in Tai Chi, you call this the Lao Gun point, okay? It's like you could call it an acupuncture point, you could call it a chakra, it doesn't matter, but there's an energy point in the palm of the hand. It's involved in hands-on healing. It's, for most people, the right hand is the output and the left hand is the input. Not always, but for most people, that's the way the circuit works. Well, if you put the little ball from the pendulum in the palm of the hand, you connect the pendulum into your meridian system. You connect it into you. Now, most people will be aware that some people in the world are allergic to stuff, allergic to peanuts, seafoods, tomatoes, whatever it is. Well, this allergic reaction, which is basically starts as a contraction on your forehead in the energy system that interferes with the front lobes of the brain, interferes with the nervous system, and the energy contracts there. So whatever you're holding in your hand to douse with may cause the energy to contract up there. So anybody can be allergic to anything, not just a food, not just a dye, not just a chemical in a toothpaste, or not. These are the common things people are aware of. We could also be allergic to shapes and sounds and colors and words in books and directions that you face. And therefore, if anybody can be allergic to anything, you could be allergic to the shape device that you're holding in your hand. Okay, you could also be allergic to the material it is made from. And on that basis, okay, without going into all the detail, large amounts of studies around the world have regularly shown that using pointed devices to energy test with, dowsing, right, for most people, most of the time, not all people all of the time, but most people most of the time, cause these contractions at the forehead. Now, the contractions are quite minor. They often don't show up until weeks, months, or years later. And what tends to happen is people who were very good at dowsing suddenly can't douse, or their responses are inaccurate, or they've developed some kind of medical problem or psychological problem, and they don't associate their medical problem or their psychological problem with the device they've been dowsing. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was a very, very, very proficient dowser, especially with dowsing rods, running around outside, measuring any energy lines, energy circles, standing stones, helping people find water. One of the biggest cases I did was help get a person out of a court case where she was being blamed for some flooding on land up in Scotland. And in fact, I was able to demonstrate through the dowsing that it wasn't coming from her land. And then physical searches on the neighbouring property showed the water was coming from there. And the neighbour was the one who got ended up in court. And the person who employed me was basically let off. But all this running around with these pointed dowsing rods I used to use badly contracted my forehead. And also the dowsing rods were made of copper. And by constantly holding the copper dowsing rods, I began to absorb copper into my body. And excess copper in the body affects brain function. It causes dissociation, causes ungroundedness, can cause all sorts of tremors and swallowing problems, copper toxicity. And that's what I began to develop. And it was only when someone else who was far more experienced than me who knew about this stuff pointed it out and said, you've got to stop using the pointed pendulum, you've got to stop using the dowsing rods, mate. And then I began to slowly get better. So I then say, well, okay, if we're not going to use this, what do we use? And what was pointed out to me was the oval pendulums, like you had, Andrena. So here's a kind of an egg shape. This is a white jade one. And here we've got a silver one. And then another one might be sort of a copper plated one. And Andrena's got a wooden one. The one thing they've got in common is that they're oval. They're womb-like. They're yin pendulum. So a pointed pendulum is a yang pendulum. It's phallic. It's masculine. It's a very pointed, aggressive energy. And one of the problems is that anything made with a point, whether it's metal or crystal or even wood, has a beam of energy coming off the end. And any simple muscle test will demonstrate that. Okay, all you have to do is hold the point pointing towards someone and gradually push on their arm, and their arm will start to go down because the beam of energy from the point is beginning to damage and contract the energy field and certain chakras in the body. So if you've got a pointed thing hooked into your system, it gradually begins to damage the energy. Whereas this womb-like oval yin feminine pendulum, same shape as a female womb, same shape as the human energy field, broadly speaking, and therefore you don't get the same side effects. You do have to be aware of the material. You know, if you're sensitive to crystal, and many people are, then using an oval crystal pendulum wouldn't be the best thing for you. Some people might react to the color silver. Some people might react to the color sort of brass and gold, because silver is feminine, yin, okay, lunar, whereas the brassy gold is solar and masculine. So you sometimes find that people have an issue with the color in the plate of the pendulum. Again, another one here. This is copper, okay, bronze. So we got mother, father, child, effectively. So positive, negative, neutral in energy flow. And then you've got the variety of different types of wood. So if you want to get your most accurate testing, you need to make sure you're using an oval pendulum, okay, if you are using a pendulum at all. And if you've got an oval pendulum, then it is also wise to double check the material to make sure you're not reacting to the material. We're looking at element theory here. Some people are good with metal. Some people are good with crystal. Some people are good with wood. And if you're working with wood, obviously there are woods, different woods that come from different seasons. That's the wheel of the year. You want your most accurate results, oval pendulum and the right material, Andrena.
Definitely.
Hey,
and I know...
I was just going to say, a lot of people used to wear copper bracelets because they were given the instructions that they're there for arthritis. But it sounds like what you just said.
Exactly. So what I would do there, Jeff, is that you'd use your energy testing, whether it was dowsing with the oval pendulum, whether it was some form of muscle testing, okay, or some kind of sway test to check, does somebody actually need? So what we've got is we've got whole bodies of knowledge, you know, that copper does this and magnets do that and crystals do this and drugs do that. And they're all generic, you know, copper does do those things and magnets do these things and walking barefoot does do this. However, for a given individual, is that the right thing for you? Until you tune into the nervous system, the endocrine system, the immune system, and the energy system that's running that, you don't get an accurate result. And so that's why two people end up going for the same therapy. Person A goes and has acupuncture for a bad back, and it works, and they tell their friend person B who's got the same problem, and person B goes along and thinks acupuncture is a load of pants because they don't get the same result. The answer is acupuncture wasn't the right treatment for that individual for that problem. They might have gone off and seen an osteopath, a chiropractor, okay, seen a crystal therapist, and got the result they needed in a different way. Because we're all different people. We've all got different barcodes. We've all got different energies flowing through the systems. How we use the energy is unique to our system. Therefore, you have to test everything. Testing's boring. You know, you test absolutely everything. You know, what do I need to do at the end of this talk? Walk in this room, walk in that room, pick up a book, face a direction. But we test in lieu of having proper body energy awareness. So what is my whole energy system doing at any moment in time? And because a lot of people's energy systems are fragmented for all sorts of reasons, the top part of your energy might be pulling you in one direction and the lower part of the energy is pulling you in a different direction. And we often experience this as conflict. I want to do this, but I think I need to do that. And that's what's really going on in the energy system.
Right. Hey, you got the lambs going. in Harry Potter movie, they had the wands, which were all of some form of wood. So, of course, UK is well known for its she oaks and walnuts and tulips and stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you're picking your wood, from the tree, are you feeling a connection with that particular tree? And you do muscle testing.
That's right. Essentially, you would, if you look at the 12, look at the 12 months of the year. Okay, you go into the kind of the Western tradition, the Druidic tradition of the different trees for the times of the year. So, for example, one of my training companies is called Alder Holly. Somebody said, "Why did you call it that?" I said, "Well, I chose 2 trees, one from the darkest night and one from the brightest summer. So there's a balance of energy in the name of the company." Alder and holly being 2 trees of the wheels of the year. So you might feel drawn to a wood. If you're not sure, you just basically get someone else to help you muscle test it, and then that's the wood that is literally resonating with your energy field. There is a way with cameras or with people who've got very sensitive vision, and what I mean by that is their pineal gland, their third eye, is functioning correctly. So there's no distortion in the energy field. There's no calcification of the pineal gland through being exposed to fluoride and aluminium and things like that. Pineal gland has the same rods and cones on it as your normal eyes. And if you can see the light flow with your third eye, you can see literally photon energy flow going between people and places and objects. So it is possible to see the light flow from the wood going into a person. That person will often feel attracted to a tree, and what's going on is the energy is expanding at their heart. The light photon flow, it's a heart connection from the tree to that person, and that is often why people get attracted to something. Not always, but that is quite often what goes on. And then that is the wood that you choose to have your oval pendulum made from. Exactly right, Jeff.
And so that also go for the dowsing rods? I mean,
we're not. I'm not saying throw your dowsing rods away; they're bad. Never use them again. What I'm saying is that for the majority of people, most of the time, you have to be very careful what you choose to douse with. And the bottom line is that dowsing, using something in your hands, even an oval pendulum, it's just an extension of you. It's just a very crude semaphore that is magnifying what is already going on. And if we were all more energy sensitive, we wouldn't need to have things in our hands. We would be able to feel what our body is doing. So if we sort of see that the whole of the world is made up of different forms of energy, so we have a body energy awareness, and that's like internal Feng Shui, and then you've got environmental energy awareness, which is often packaged up and delivered as Feng Shui as most people understand it. And then above that, you've got spirit energy awareness. And you can't cultivate a good spirit energy awareness if you haven't got a grounded body energy awareness. What is your body doing? What does it need? What exercise does it need? What food does it need today? What supplements? So we start with the common mundane stuff that we're all involved in every day. And eventually increasing the body energy awareness, you suddenly walk into a room and it feels a bit awkward and you go, oh, that chair's in the wrong corner, or that object on the mantelpiece shouldn't be in the house anymore. So we've now cultivated some environmental energy awareness. How is your system reacting to what is in the space you occupy, inside your car, inside your office, inside your workshop? And then all that leads to the spiritual energy awareness. So what happens with spirit awareness? Most people, most of the time, they see an advert, they read a book, and they go, I must go to Glastonbury, I must go to Stonehenge, I must go to Uluru, Ayers Rock, whatever. And they don't actually test whether that's the best thing for them to do, because your energy might not want you to go and do that. And so, for example, at Glastonbury, the tour is really good, but the tower on the tour is not good. The tower on the tour disrupts the energy field in that area. And for sensitive people walking up the tour at Glastonbury, you pick up a benefit of walking up the tour, and you get a detriment from the tower at the top, right, contracting the energy around the top of your head. So if your system's sort of sensitive, you gain and you lose in the same walk. And if you tested it, your energy would have said, please don't walk up the tour. Don't walk up the tour at sunrise or sunset. So you can absolutely energy test anything. So body energy awareness, environmental energy awareness, and then spirit energy awareness is the kind of hierarchy of testing. And ultimately, you just want to allow your energy system to decide what it wants to do. And we're thinking about, what's my mouth energy doing? Does it feel like I'm going to smile? Does it feel like the tongue is going forward in the mouth? It's often called snake mouth. Does it feel as though I'm going to take a nice deep in breath? So you arrive in the world and you breathe in, you depart from the world, you breathe out. And we can use that in energy testing. A deep breath in is energy expanding. Whatever you're thinking of doing, whatever you're thinking of eating, wherever you're thinking of going, whatever you're thinking of renting, a house, a car, booking a holiday, it's good for your energy. So go and do it. However, if you take a breath in and then you get a deep, then that's a contraction. That's energy contracting. So don't go and do what you're thinking of doing. Don't apply for that job. Don't rent that car. Don't buy that car. Okay. Don't go on holiday to that location, because it's just not good for your energy. We're not saying it's a bad place. We're not saying it's a bad car. We're not saying it's a bad job. What we're saying is it's not the right thing for you. And if you keep contracting your energy, there are then consequences for those contractions. And that shows up as illness, psychological issues, and things not working out in your life.
Andrena, take it away.
So people that, for any of our listeners that hadn't ever dowsed before, and I know there's ways of, asking for the yes and the no, and there's different variations on that. What would you say for somebody that has no idea how to dowse? How would they start?
The first thing they need to do is ideally get hold of an oval pendulum. Okay. And initially I wouldn't worry too much what it's made from. Some people will find they'll get a response very quickly because their energy system is happy with dowsing. Many people don't get immediate responses, and that can be a bit discouraging. And the first thing we have to think about is that when we're actually, I'm just going to hold a pendulum here, that when we're actually holding a pendulum, however you hold it, whether I'm holding it with my fingertips, the holding end, whether I'm actually got it within the palm of the hand and I've got the little ball, okay, in the palm of the hand, what is the pendulum doing? It is amplifying what your energy is doing. So if the pendulum isn't moving, what we're saying is you don't have a proper energy flow coming through the meridians of your arms. So the first thing that you would do is think about, do I ever recall injuring that arm, getting it punched at school, falling over, having an injection in it? Doesn't matter what the injection was for. All of these things will tighten the fascial web inside the body. And that's what I was talking about in the previous show. So the first thing you do is you give your arm a really good stretch, put it against the wall and really stretch, pull your fingers back, and then imagine your arm defrosting inside. Okay, and that's a message from the brain into the arm for the myofascial web to release. If you've done a lot of driving, done a lot of lifting, anything involving the hands where they're gripping, a lot of people have a lot of stress in their hands where they've learned to drive, a lot of computer work, you just need to imagine your hands letting go of steering wheels and putting boxes down, and imagine taking them off the keyboards, because the memory in the arm is of the activity you do most of. We call it muscle memory in sports sort of massage. So you want to remove the memory in the arm, and then you come back to the pendulum, and all you really want to do to start with, however you hold it, okay, is just kick the pendulum off. You have to mechanically kick the pendulum off. If you're sitting there holding the pendulum, waiting for it to move, you have to overcome in physics something called inertia. Objects don't move until there's enough energy allowing them to move. It's like Newton's law of motion from school, school physics. So physically make the pendulum move, mechanically kick it off, and then you just wait and you watch. So I've kicked the pendulum off, and now I'm just watching, and I've got a spin going on with the pendulum there, and I've got my normal wooden pendulum in my pocket. So there it is. Okay, that's my oval one. This is oak. And I've just switched from the metal pendulum to the wooden pendulum, and I've got two different shapes. So my wooden pendulum wants to spin to the right. When I was holding the metal pendulum, it was wanting to spin to the left. I'm not doing that. That's just happening naturally. And essentially, for me, a right-hand spin in old-fashioned dowsing terms is my yes. Now, what does it really mean? A right-hand spin, for me, that is energy expanding. That is energy being very happy. So what I know this morning is just picking the pendulums up and allowing them, giving them a mechanical kickoff, and then just watching them, is that my energy system is far happier with a wooden pendulum. It's giving a yes expanding signal, whereas I'm holding the metal pendulum and it's giving me a no contracting signal. And in fact, I could feel that in my chest. It was like a contraction right on the sternum. So my energy system is not at all happy working with metal, but it's very, very happy working with wood. And there's our first practical demonstration today. If you're testing with the wrong material, the chances are your yeses are no's and your no's are yeses, and everything you're testing is you're getting actually back to front results. Now that could, you know, produce some quite interesting circumstances for you. But if your money's changing hands and you're testing remedies for somebody, then that's failing in a duty of care. I mean, you really cannot emphasize that any more than that. If you're testing stuff for other people and they're getting the wrong stuff, then there are serious, you know, implications with that at many different levels, morally up to legally. So there's my pendulum, and it's got a nice right hand spin. And that's just, I'm not thinking anything. I'm not asking any questions. I'm just allowing the pendulum to do what it's doing. And it's got this very happy, expanding right hand spin. So that is my yes. That's my expanding response. And yes, that's me now making that happen. So the opposite spin for me is a contracting inward energy, and that is a no. Now, when you start off, there is a way of calibrating, testing. Even if you're using a pointed pendulum, this will work. Okay, it's just, you know, please consider oval being better than pointed, womb-like being better than phallic, yin being better than yang when it comes to testing. So effectively, I'm going to use a hand position. Okay, and this is called a mudra. Okay, it comes from Ayurvedic medicine. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to basically join together my thumb and my index finger, like so. So instead of asking a question, I could say, show me my yes. And there the pendulum's going to respond. And I could then say, I'm going to kick it backwards and forwards, say, show me my no. And it's off there to the left. And that's fine. But the moment I ask a question, I invite my subconscious, which is a storehouse of all my unprocessed childhood stuff. It's filled full of all sorts of ancestral memories and patterns. And those who want to work with it, it's also filled full of past life traumas. All the people who did energy testing and were punished for what they did, or all the people who did energy testing and didn't use it wisely. That's all the information in the field. And for, you know, one person's past life is another person's sub-personality, and it really doesn't matter. What we're saying is the moment you ask questions, you potentially invite the subconscious to have an opinion of what is going on. And therefore, it's more accurate, certainly when you're calibrating your pendulum before testing, to use hand positions, okay? Because the hand position changes the energy flow in meridians in the body, and it asks the question for you without you verbally or unconsciously asking it. So all I'm doing is I've joined the thumb and the index finger together. The other fingers are nice and flat. Okay, I'm just going to stand up there to see if we can see what's going on. And effectively, I'm getting the edge of my finger just above my belly button. So it's the edge of the hand is against the, it's just against the abdomen. There's my belly button. The edge of the hand is there. And I'm just going to kick the pendulum off. And I just watch the shape. And the shape, whatever shape you get, it doesn't matter what the shape is. Don't measure your responses by what my energy is doing, because your energy is unique to you. So this is my expanding yes response. And I'm going to bring the pendulum to a standstill, and I'm going to turn the hand over now. So now, okay, the index finger and the thumb are against the abdomen, and I've dropped beneath the belly button. So I've turned my hand over. It's now palm down. It was palm up, and the little finger was against the abdomen. This is testing yes. And I turn the hand over and I drop it beneath the belly button. I just kick the pendulum off. And there is my opposite swing. That's confirming my no. Now, when you're doing these kind of tests, okay, it doesn't matter what shapes you get, as long as you get two different shapes. One is yes, one is no. What is it really measuring? One is expanding and one is contracting. Okay, so one response is expanding. That's when the hand is up, okay, in this shape. When the hand is over, that is testing no. And unless you calibrate that, you have no idea whether your responses are accurate. And it's no different when we do muscle testing. Okay, if you want to calibrate for muscle testing is kind of global. It's kind of testing everything very crudely. But essentially with a muscle test, you're looking for a strengthening or a weakening response. And the best way to calibrate is to get someone to tell you a fib, then tell you the truth. Ethically, we do it in that order, because every time you tell a fib, the bad news for politicians, this one, every time you tell a fib, okay, it contracts the energy at the forehead, contracts the energy at the heart. And that causes minute changes in blood, hormone level, stress levels. That therefore changes energy flow, and that shows up as a weakening. So we would often say to someone in an evening workshop, tell me a fib, say my name is Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse, because clearly you're not. And that should always have a weakening response. Now that might be a total collapse of the arm, or it might just be a bit of sponginess. It doesn't matter. The arm goes weak. And then you say to the person, tell me the truth. And they say, my name is, and they give their correct name. The arm should stay rock solid. People with a good grounded sense of identity, the arm will even start to apparently go up. And the arm staying solid is an energy field staying grounded, staying solid. And an arm going up is the energy field expanding. Okay, so people have done a lot of personal process work, very, very grounded, good energy flow in their systems. Their energy field will expand when they say their own name. Occasionally, okay, little glitches that crop up at this point before you can start testing anything at all, whether we're muscle testing or dowsing. Things like people sometimes use their middle name as their first name, so they're not acknowledging who they really are. People using an abbreviated version of their name, so Joe instead of Joanna. Okay, those can cause glitches, and we then have to go off and do a brief exploration as to why that is. And it's the same with the pendulum testing and with muscle testing. Sometimes you get 2 yeses or 2 nos, or you get 2 weaks and 2 strongs. And what that tells you is that somebody's energy system is not flowing correctly. And we have to do something called unswitching. So switching happens when you're thinking something or saying something that part of you doesn't agree with. And so a part of you doesn't like your first name. Part of you associates your full name being called out when you're in trouble. So my brother calls himself Chris, but the only time he got called Christopher was when my father was going to tell him off. Christopher, come here. And therefore there's a kind of connection there. The energy system and the person associates the use of their full name with getting a right good telling off. And that's not good for your energy. That causes contractions at the heart and at the forehead. So we have to do a bit of exploration there. So we've got to think about, have we had injuries to the arm? Have we had surgery to the arm? Have you had a punch on the arm, fallen on your arm? We need to stretch your arm out. Even if it's muscle testing, we have to stretch your arm out. We have to send this message for the arm to defrost. We have to send messages to the hands to let go of memories of holding things. Most common thing is steering wheels. Okay. You know, it could be motorcycle, bicycle handlebars. They're things where effort and strain is involved, maybe lifting, carrying things. So we have to remind the body it's not doing that. Okay. And then we have to think about asking with the pendulum, use the hand position to do the test. So we're sort of palm up, palm down, and you're resting against your body. You don't think or say anything. You allow the hand position to ask the question for you. It's just an energy flow thing that you're doing, like a diagnostic. Okay, if you do get these contradictory responses on pendulum, first thing you do is you clap your hands at your chest up to 12 times. Sometimes we might clap our hands in front of the forehead. This is trying to reset energy in the chest and at the forehead. Sometimes we may have to clap our hands above our head. Some people will be going to the kidney 1 point, okay, just beneath the collarbone, tapping it, massaging it, right? And these are ways of unswitching the energy system, slapping the soles of your feet, okay, flicking your eyes to the left 10 to 12 times. They're all ways of clearing the disruption that's occurring in the energy system. So do you remember some of that, Andrena? Because you did, they've done that in the workshops.
I know, and I was thinking, gosh, I forgot about that. And yeah, so I'm gonna have to write down and go through a few things, because I thought, oh gosh, I've forgotten to do that, and I've forgotten to do that. So I mean, I have put a lot of what you've told me into practice, obviously getting this. And I know one of the things I had to do was get a grounding sheet, because my energy, I think we tested that my sleep pattern was affected. So I was still linked to Australia.
That was right. Absolutely. That's a really interesting one, that. So probably worth explaining very briefly. When we're flying above the ground, when you're in an aircraft flying above the ground, you're disconnected from the earth. Okay. Although you're part of the earth, you're now disconnected from it. And then you've got all the onboard electronics on board the aircraft. Okay. And all of those are interfacing and interacting with your energy system. And then you fly from one country to another. It's even more exacerbated when you actually switch hemispheres. Okay. And so effectively, upon arriving in your next destination, the advice is, what is jet lag? We all experience it in some way, shape or form. Tiredness, achy pains. It's your body adjusting to a new environment. And obviously, a long time ago, before we had commercial aircraft doing this, we would take a long, slow journey on a boat. And that allowed your body a great time to adapt and adjust to new lighting, new weather conditions, okay, new atmospheric conditions. And that's the biological stuff. That's the climate stuff. But your energy has to adapt to the new environment it's gone to. It's different culture. It's a different frequency in the land. And Andrena, who I was testing some stuff on, although she'd been back from Australia for some time, effectively her energy system was behaving as though she was still there. So what do we mean by that? Well, we had disturbed sleep patterns and various other issues going on back here. And it was clear that it was almost like, in shamanic terms, part of her was frozen in time in Australia. Her energy system was behaving as though she was still there. So she was literally out of place, out of time. And this happens when you're crossing the equator, when your chakras don't catch up with what your physical body is doing. So I just remind people, and most people go, oh yeah, I know this when I think about it. In the Northern Hemisphere, water goes down a plug hole clockwise. And in the Southern Hemisphere, water goes down a plug hole anti-clockwise. In the Northern Hemisphere, the weather systems go from left to right. In the Southern Hemisphere, they go from right to left. In the Northern Hemisphere, the highs and lows spin, the low pressure spins in one direction, the Southern Hemisphere spins the other direction. So it's like the planet is a mirror image of each other pushed together, okay, at the equator. Okay, so when you fly from the Northern Hemisphere, your chakras are spinning to the right, because chakras spin in the same direction as water going down the plug hole. You cross the equator in an instant on a plane, and your chakras go, whoa, what happened there? Because all of a sudden, the energy signature is requiring the chakras to effectively reverse spin. Okay, and if you're in the Northern Hemisphere going to the south, they have to start spinning the opposite way to what they are used to. This then has an effect upon the hormones in the endocrine system, which therefore then leads to all sorts of issues with serotonin, melatonin balance, other hormonal issues. So one of the things I often have to do with people who've been off on their retreat to Bali or wherever it is, they come back and they'll come and see me about a fortnight later. I went for my lovely retreat. I've been to Australia. I've been to the sun, whatever it is. And I've come back and I feel terrible. Is it because I've come back to Britain? Well, yeah, partly, but it's more an energy thing. It's not so much a light thing. It's an energy thing. So all we have to do is get a person to lie on a therapy couch or lie on a yoga mat. They need to lie with their head to the north and their feet to the south, because you've then put your body in line with the electromagnetic field of the earth. So the top of your head is north, your feet are south, and that brings the chakras in the Northern Hemisphere back into the correct spin. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere and you've been for a trip to London for whatever reason, come to Stonehenge, whatever it is, you fly back to Australia, you're feeling crap, two things you do. First thing, you've got to walk around barefoot on natural soil in Australia to reconnect to the land where you've come from or where you have spent your time living. Then you lie down on the ground and you have your head to the South Pole and your feet towards the equator. And that then brings your chakras back into alignment. And these chakra imbalances are really, really, really quite nasty things to work with from an energy point of view, because any malfunction in a chakra will show up as a pathology, as inappropriate hormone flow. you know. So we've got the crowns going into the pineal and the brows going into the pituitary, which has a front and a back and is the master gland of the body. It's responsible for measuring and sensing all sorts of stuff. But the thyroid at the throat, center of the chest is thymus, immune system. We're coming down to the kind of the navel abdominal area, and we've got, this is going into the pancreas and it's going into the adrenals. So this is all about insulin levels and adrenaline levels inside the body. You're going down onto the pubic bone, and we're looking at, you know, sort of testosterone and estrogen, what the ovaries are producing. And then we're going into the root chakra. That's actually going up in through the perineum into the bone marrow. Okay, and that's another part of your immune system. So if chakras aren't spinning properly because of the fact they're not catching up, you're not connected to the land, grounded, okay, then you're going to end up with all, as the years go by, this doesn't show up within a week, this is like years, decades later, you end up with all sorts of hormonal, physical pathology, psychological issues. And in Andrena's case, the quick way to connect her back to the earth was to buy an earthing sheet, and that's a cotton sheet, laced through with silver, and it has a one pin plug. You can plug into the earth pin of your 3-pin house socket, or you get like a knitting needle, a proper old-fashioned earthing rod out the window into the ground. You wrap yourself up in it. It's like sleeping on the ground, and it ditches all sorts of excessive electromagnetic stress that allows the chakras to resume normal service right in the hemisphere that you are in. Okay, so how are you getting on with the earthing sheet? Has it been working?
Yeah, excellent. And luckily here, like since I've moved to Dorset, I was in the chalet, now I'm in the mobile home. My head is in the north, so it's great. It's perfect. So yeah, sleep, I'm, you know, obviously I get the odd night where I'm disturbed, but or yeah, overload with dreams and what have you. But yeah, definitely feeling so much better. So
so if you're getting overloaded dreams, that's when the energy point at the forehead is a little bit too wide open. Right. And that can happen when where we're doing a little bit too much spiritual practice, bit too much meditation, bit too much yoga, believe it or not, you know, a little bit is good. It's like chocolate and wine, alcohol, you know, a bit is good, and too much is maybe not so good. And so we end up ungrounding ourselves if we have too much meditation, too much yoga, okay, too much time self-contemplation. I know it sounds really bizarre. You know, the Buddha is telling us, you know, everything should be about, you know, awareness and just sitting doing nothing. That's not so. You've got a physical body, you live in a physical world, you have physical things that you have to interact with, because that's how you evolve and learn and grow as a human being. So, you know, the way of the spirit, which is the title of the talk here, that's what this is about. You know, what is your spirit? You know, what is your energy requiring you to do? And I mean, I'm a great fan of Steve Richards, the holographic kinetics there in Australia, and Ross Emmett Technique, you know, really, really influential people with amazing information to give. I mean, I'm now qualified in some aspects of Emmett Technique, certainly working with dogs. And I met Steve Richards and have worked with him. He's worked on me many years ago. And there's a lot of great information there. And one of Steve's great pieces of information for people is the reminder that, you know, you are composed of 3 parts. This is the Trinity. This is the Mother, the Father, the Son, however you see it. You know, you are, you know, a body with an ego personality attached to it. You know, you have an energy system, which is a soul. And in the middle of all this, you have a spirit. And the spirit and the soul and the body with the personality operating through it all have to agree. Because if they don't agree, the house will fall. And it clearly states that in so many religious and spiritual texts. I'm not religious in the slightest, but the religious texts are really spiritual texts, and they're telling you the true nature of life and the pitfalls in it. And, you know, some people are just purely grounded in the material world and think nothing else exists, and they therefore sell themselves to the devil, so to speak, sell themselves to the material world. What they do with their body, how they treat it, the acquisition of yet more and more stuff. That's not what this is about. But conversely, I meet a lot of very, very nice people who are very, very ungrounded for all sorts of reasons. Too much spiritual practice, too much going to spiritual places. And you're picking up these energies into your system, okay? And you can end up with really weird dreams and unrealistic expectations of what you're going to do in life. And that's when this energy point is overloaded. There's too much information going through. And that's when you have to go and do something grounded, like go and wash the dishes, you know, go and make yourself a cup of tea. Yeah, go and walk the dog. You know, go and look at the bills that need to be paid and start to test how you're going to pay those bills. Stop ignoring them and start figuring out why your wealth energy isn't what it needs to be. Why have you got more energy going out than you've got energy going in? Because it's telling you something about you. And so I'm just sitting here looking at a document on cultivating energy awareness. This is someone else's work. This is a work of Stephen and Linda Kane at the School of Energy Awareness. And I would put them in there with people like Ross Emmett and Steve Richards. They're really up there people. They've been doing what they've been doing for over 40 years. And it's a results-driven system that they're working with. It's them that I have the information about the oval pendulums from. They were the people who showed me the error of my ways. And effectively, you know, if I was doing whether it was a life coaching session online or whether I was doing energy testing with yourself, Andrena, face-to-face, you've experienced this. You know, everybody's life is made up of 8 aspects. There are 8 points to a Feng Shui compass. And we have health energy and we have wealth energy. We have security and respect energy. We have partnership energy, creative energy, helpful people energy, work energy, and lastly, learning energy. Those are the 8 aspects of every person's life. And it doesn't matter if I say to you, well, these are the 8 points of your life. You know, how are things going with health and wealth, and what's the security and respect like? Or whether we could be literally muscle testing or dowsing what's going on. And how would we dowse or muscle test this? Well, we'd use another hand shape. This is called a karma mudra. Okay, it's measuring the things that aren't going right in your life. And we'd literally be going around your head, looking at the 8 points around the head where these energies come in through the crown. And if we've got an area that's contracted 9.5 times out of 10, that will be the part of your life that's not working out. So the first thing we have to say to ourselves is, okay, so why have we got a contraction there? And the most common reason is that we've got injury or damage to the head. And that will start at birth with a ventouse or a forceps delivery, a cord around the neck, okay, a facial presentation, the most dramatic and serious one, a cesarean birth. And the myofascial web is tightened inside the body. Because the myofascial web is tightened inside the body, we've now got constrictions in the energy system. The energy system is anchored into the myofascial web. We did that in the first talk. That's where the light photons are. So we would basically do some cranial work. We would do some myofascial release. We might have to do some delicate scar work release. We'd ask the person to imagine their head defrosting, and you can all do that one. Okay, see the jaw defrosting, see the head defrosting. Turn it from being frozen into lovely blue flowing water. They're all messages for the fascia to release. We then go back, and with the use of the pendulum or through muscle testing, we will then observe 9.5 times out of 10, there'll be expansion in the energy field. And that's body energy awareness. Then we move to environmental energy awareness, and we might be saying, okay, so could you show me, you know, the patterns on the pillow that you put your head on every night? Or could we look at the cushions on your normal sofa? And then we might be testing people in Feng Shui terms on the colors and the shapes of stuff that they are interacting with regularly. And the most common thing you interact with regularly is a pillow at night. And we need to make sure that the material of the pillow and the contents of the material, memory foam, okay, synthetics, duck down, whatever it is, we need to make sure that your energy system is not contracting. It's not allergic to the material and the colors of the pillow. Because most people are spending 8 hours with their head in contact with a pillow. The next thing that is also interacting with a lot at night is the headboard of the bed and the wall behind the bed. This is all Feng Shui stuff. And the wall behind the head of the bed must be clear. If you've got any patterns on the wall, if you have any images on the wall, any paintings at night, everybody's chakras open to discharge the stress they've accumulated in the day. It's a little bit like your energetic immune system has to discharge the stuff it's picked up. And if you've got shapes and patterns on the headboard or on the wall behind you, you've got a light unit, instead of discharging, you pick up the stress from the colors, the shapes, and the materials, all 5 element stuff. You pick those imprints up in the crown chakra and it can't discharge properly. And please, please remember, folks, whatever your take on what I'm explaining to you, what I'm trying to describe here, anything that's affecting your forehead, anything that's affecting the top of your head is affecting your central nervous system. Any contractions there, wrong hair dyes, wrong hair color, seriously, wrong hair tonics, Okay, anything your head's coming into contact with, the lining of a hat, a pillow, you're damaging your crown chakra. What does that mean? You're attacking your central nervous system, and that's going to show up at a later point in life as some kind of symptom that you're not going to be very happy about. Does that make sense? Do you remember that, Andrena, from some of the workshops where we were testing stuff down through?
Yeah. I need one for a good memory to recap all these different things, because I mean you give and share so much information, and I know I've written notes. I've got the chart up there, which is like east, and so I know which directions are.
Great. Yeah.
And I've done different colors in, got the wood in this section and what have you. So I'm doing the best I can with these different things, but there's always room for improvement. But when going back to you saying about dreams, I've been busy the last couple of weeks. So, I've been to a hospice to see a friend. I caught up with my sister, my nieces, my daughter. And then I was dog sitting. So the last couple of weeks have been, for me, have been busy.
Yeah.
But luckily, my son's, he's got a river at the bottom of the garden. So I've been able to sit in nature, which has been amazing. So it wasn't so much doing meditation or yoga or any of that. It was the complete opposite.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, if we go from body energy awareness, we've been obviously discussing that in a bit of detail. We've now been looking at environmental energy awareness, pillows, headboards, pictures on walls, things like that. And what you're describing there, we now got to spirit energy awareness. So, everything in nature has a spirit in it. And that is the basis of all indigenous cultures. Everything has got a spirit energy in it. There's a spirit energy in the stream where you were. There's a spirit energy in the grass you're sitting on. There's a spirit energy in the trees that are around you. But unless we are fully connected to our energy system, we don't necessarily know if the spirit energy in that stream is the right spirit energy for me today, or when I've had enough of that spirit energy. And I see this a lot with people who spend a lot of time running around. They're going to Standing Stones, they're going to Notre Dame Cathedral, they're going to the tour at Stonehenge, they're going to the Chalice Gardens. It's great to go there for a little bit, but your energy system was not designed to be there all day, every day. Because you may have noticed, our very ancient ancestors did not build their houses at these places. They went there when they needed to do something. When they needed guidance, information, to do healing. So a lot of stone circles, Neolithic stone circles, they're multi-purpose. They're computers, they're observatories. They are, they're like hospitals. You can go to a Neolithic circle, and through energy testing, you can actually see which quadrant of the circle relates to which system in the body: bone, muscle, endocrine, nervous. And by going and sitting next to that stone, those are the frequencies you're picking up that are being pulled in from space. Okay, and then being transferred into your body. And you see that with the work of a guy called Jack Temple, School of Vibrational Medicine. Jack's no longer with us. That was his talent, that was his gift. And near where I live in Wales, we've got a copy of a stone circle, but over at Dawes Bower, over on the Preseli Hills, and that's the blue stone that Stonehenge is made from. So I live quite close to there. And there is a very, very powerful energy circle there. It's about 6,000 years old. And it's like a lot of very interesting experiences when people go there. But one of the things you can do, you can go to that place and you can literally go, divide it into 12 segments of pie. And if you go and stand in the right segment, then you are boosting an aspect of your immune system, your endocrine, whatever it happens to be. But I wouldn't go and live there. I don't want to build my house there. I wouldn't pitch my tent there, because then there's too much. It's too much chocolate, too much red wine. And therefore that can overload and unground the energy system. You often know if you're overloaded and ungrounded. It's not just that you can't sleep. You get kind of a bit of a starry-eyed feel around your head, sometimes pressure on the forehead, but you start having lots of little accidents. You do lots of little stubbing your toe and banging your elbow and banging your head, right, and nicking yourself with a knife. That's an overloaded energy system. You're not clumsy. Okay, that's not clumsy. It's not a coordination issue. That is too much energy in the system around the head, and you need to go and ground. And grounding often means, go and put your feet on the ground where you live, as long as it's not in a town where there's loads of cables and overhead wires. All right, but grounding is doing simple, practical things: wash the car, wash the dishes, walk the dog. Repair those things, paint the wall. You got to do physical things to do that. Go for a run, go to the gym, And seriously, eat some crap food. There's nothing like grounding your body out by going and eating some really crap food. And I'm not going to name crap food, but just go and eat. Yeah, just go and have a crap meal, right? And that really grinds stuff out quickly. And that's what you need to do when we're overloaded with spirit energy.
Yeah, well, grounding is the key, isn't it, to all things? Because you can talk to people and they're and you think, oh gosh, she's not grounded, or people don't realize the importance of standing out on the earth and connecting to the earth at the start of the day. Right. Let me think, because there's so many aspects to all of this.
I remember going to Somerset to the healing weekend, and I was out of sorts, and this guy said, "Yeah, come with me," and he got me to lay on the ground, face down, and he had 6 magnets, and he put them just on the shoulder blades, on the hips, and down by the ankle.
Yeah.
And it must have been less than 4 minutes, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that was it. And stood up.
That's it.
Oh, mate, that's pretty good. Yeah.
It's like pressing a reset button on the energy system, because the energy system is electromagnetic. There are other forms of energy that come into it, but essentially the energy system is electromagnetic. And that's why, unfortunately, we all live our lives with smartphones and signals passing through the house. That's electromagnetism. Smart meters measuring output, cables bringing power to houses. And that's why some people become electrosensitive. And so what happens is all those things I've mentioned are effectively contracting the energy at the forehead, and it therefore then shows up as electrosensitivity. And when we're dealing with energy awareness, today is all about this spirit journey, this journey into understanding energy, testing it. Testing energy is one way of understanding it. Is that there's a fine line between being energy sensitive and being energy vulnerable. And most of the people I work with face-to-face and in online sessions, they are either always have been, or they've tipped into being energy vulnerable. They can feel other people's stuff all the time. They walk into a shop, they're happy, they start feeling miserable because they're resonating with other people's stuff that's there. And one of the things I show in the workshops and all the courses that I teach is, one of the exercises we do is that we'll get someone to walk up and down in the room just having grumpy thoughts. Think about something that really pisses you off, and then we'll get someone else to walk up and down where that person is, and it doesn't matter what you do, you cannot get a strong muscle test on that person until the second person walking in the wake of the first person starts to think happy thoughts, and then the happy thoughts begins to stabilize their energy system. I said it's a bit like ships in a flotilla at sea, and the ship at the front is ditching sewage and crap into the water, and all the other ships are sailing along, into the wake of what's being ditched off the first ship. And that's what it's like when you're in a city, and people are leaving wakes of energy around them, and most people have got all sorts of troubles and challenges in their life, especially with the way things are at the moment, and that's what they're thinking about, and that's what they are then ditching out of their hands and feet as they walk, and then you're trailing along in that. And that's why sensitive people often don't do cities, don't do towns, do it for a limited period of time. So you've got the signals from the devices that people are holding, that are carrying with them, and then you're walking along in the wake of their energy. And one of the purposes of energy testing is to find remedies, solutions. So remember, one of our 8 energies is creative energy. And what I want is a creative solution. I want a creative solution for my clients' issues. And I'm sitting here today, and Jeff had to ask me to turn the laptop around because of light coming through the window. But when I'm in my workroom at home, I'm either facing east or west, because I'm facing west at the moment, and west is where creative energy resides, and that's where it comes into the space, that's where it comes into your body. So I'm creatively wanting to give information to people. Facing east, I'm facing health, and I'm wanting to get solutions for people's health problems.
So I was thinking, because you have got a chart, and maybe people, if they'd like the chart, they could email you and you can send them that for more information.
No problem at all. Yeah.
So I remember in one of your workshops, you've said about, which I don't do anymore, about crossing your legs, about blocking the energy. So just cross your ankles. So I'm always aware now that I don't do it so much, but on the odd occasion I've gone to cross over my knees and and then quickly stopped and just crossed my ankles like so, but you can't see.
Yeah. That's it. So that's a little thing we work with there in the workshop. And you know, one of the little sort of spirit journey things we point out to people is that changing posture changes energy, and we've demonstrated that by changing the posture of a hand, okay, to find out when is your energy expanding, when is it contracting. We've looked at how we might use that shape to test for contracted energy. You've got a pain, whenever you go, wherever a pain is, wherever a scar is, you put that shape over it. If you muscle test or use a pendulum, the energy field will always be very, very close and contracted to the body until you do something about it. Release the fascia, release the scar, put something on the skin, take a remedy, hold a crystal there, whatever it is, to expand the energy system. And so we have this thing, change your posture, change your energy. And why do you do that? You change your energy because you change your life. And what Andrena was going through there is if you cross your legs at the knees, which is what a lot of people do. Some of you might be doing it now while you're listening to the show. Please don't cross your legs, because it totally contracts and screws up, okay, the lower chakras. It kind of corkscrews them. Whereas if you're in a business meeting, okay, you're in some kind of negotiation, okay, some kind of confrontation, crossing your legs at the ankles makes the energy field big and strong and robust, okay? But like everything else, it's not an absolute. Please don't cross your legs at all if you're looking at a screen, okay? So if you're looking at a computer screen, if you're looking at a TV, looking at your phone, okay, even crossing your legs at your ankles contracts the energy system. So
I didn't know that bit.
That's right, yeah. Reading a book, fine, cross your ankles. Traveling on a vehicle, cross your ankles. In a meeting, cross your ankles, okay? But if you're looking at a computer screen, a phone or a TV, right, you should not, your feet and legs should just be together, and the palms, your hands just resting on your lap, okay? Those are strong energy positions. Folding your arms, really, really bad for your energy. And a lot of people have come across this, all fold your arms to protect your energy. No, what you actually do is you actually contract your energy. When people are telling you things like that, with the best of intention, they're passing on word of mouth information that they've never actually tested to find the truth of. And the whole point of energy testing is testing the truth. Okay, so just because somebody says something, myself included, does not mean that that is a truth or your truth or the truth. Okay, so testing allows us to establish what is your truth on a given day. Somebody says, take this supplement, it's great for bad backs. Yeah, well, is it right for your back? It might actually make your back worse because you might react to some of the ingredients in it. Okay, and that's when we get people saying, drink, you know, red wine's good for you, red wine's bad for you. You know, how many reports have I ever read on that? Well, the answer is it depends on who's drinking the wine. It depends on which brand wine it is and where it came from. And if I'm drinking an Australian wine, I'm not knocking Australian wine, to make that quite clear. But if I'm drinking an Australian wine in the Northern Hemisphere, my energy might not agree with that. Okay, I live in the Northern Hemisphere. I'm meant to be drinking wine that's made in France because it was made in the Northern Hemisphere. And therefore, it's quite possible that my energy system might react to a wine made in the Southern Hemisphere, not because it's a bad wine, not because, you know, wine from Argentina and Australia is bad. It's just that my energy system doesn't deal with stuff that comes from the other hemisphere. Somebody else's energy might be quite happy with it and might need that particular brand of wine. So we can be as specific with that when we are doing our body energy testing.
And I know another thing, when I go to yoga, you said about the tree position, and I've always placed my leg and stood there being a tree.
That's it.
And you said not to do it that way. I can't remember why, but I know now stand with my arms out and my I just do it as you said. So I'm the only one that's doing it that way.
Yeah, no, that comes back to the little experiment when, you know, I said we get someone to walk up and down in a workshop, and then we get someone else to walk up and down where the first person has been walking with the grumpy thoughts. So what it's telling us, even if you're wearing shoes, even if you've got insulated, you know, modern shoes on, you're effectively, every time you're walking, you're ditching stress through your feet into the earth, because that's how we're designed to be. So even through rubber-soled shoes and PVC-soled shoes on tarmac and concrete, you're still ditching some stress. Therefore, it follows, if you do what is currently called tree pose in yoga, if you place the sole of your foot on the inside of your leg in a traditional tree pose, you're actually ditching your own stress back into your own system. And what you have to do then, I mean, one of my backgrounds, I mean, I was a soldier and I was a policeman and all the rest of it we did in the first show. But I also went back to university as a mature student and I studied social sciences. And one of the things about social science is that you ask the question, why or what? You know, you're saying, where does this information come from? What is this source information? And if you go back into the history of yoga poses, you'll find that what is currently called tree pose was originally called sky stone. And in sky stone, instead of having the foot placed on the inside of the leg, okay, the bent leg was crossed across the front, right, of the leg you're standing on, which means the sole of the foot is not against the inside of the leg. And if you do the original sky stone pose and your arms are outreached, especially if you're doing this position, which we've already used today, this is actually called acceptance mudra. So if you're standing in sky stone with your bent leg across the front of the leg you're standing on and your arms are out either side, you are actually encouraging a flow of energy from the universe into your body that reinforces all these different energies, the health, the wealth, security, and respect. So we can say I do yoga for physical health and flexibility. I could say I do yoga because it's my spiritual practice, but really the origins of all this kind of Tai Chi and yoga, this way of the spirit, is that changing how you position your body and doing it when you face certain directions, west for creativity, east for health, north is work, south is security and respect. When you do those things, you encourage those flows of chi, life force, into your system, and therefore changing your posture changes your energy, therefore it changes your life. Because you're a bar magnet, law of attraction, ask and it's given, cosmic ordering, whatever you want to call it, effectively you are attracting and repelling circumstances in your life according to the size and shape and flow of energy through your energy system. And if the energy system is contracted or damaged, if you've got the wrong shapes on the pillow, if you've got objects on the wall behind your bed, it's going to affect the energy flow at your head. And then that health and wealth and relationship and all those energies are going to be affected. And most people don't associate their midlife crisis with the fact that they've been, you know, using a particular type pillow or sleeping with their head with a particular type direction or particular favorite poster on the wall above their head for decades. Well, that's what's causing the problem in your life. And that's why Feng Shui is so important. It is one of the most fundamental, you know, environmental energy awareness of the body energy awareness is absolutely crucial to all aspects of health and well-being in your life.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah. Oh gosh, you're such a wealth of knowledge and obviously you've trained in practice and what have you. So yeah, I think that's the main things I wanted to ask, because I was thinking I can't tell them people in yoga to do it differently because obviously
you just do it your way.
Yeah, and I just stand out and I think, God, they must wonder why I do it that way and not do it the other way. But anyway.
Yeah. You just have to say to people that your hip's a bit stiff and you can't put your foot. You give people a reasonable explanation. They just run with it. Most people are too busy trying to balance in their own yoga pose to worry about what someone else is doing. Let's be honest. Okay. Everybody's concentrating on their pose, not worrying about what other people are doing. You know, so energy testing, you could test your yoga poses, test your Tai Chi. You know, what is the way of the spirit? It's what your spirit energy, as Steve Richards says, it's what that little core of energy is wanting you to do. And the spirit is whispering to the soul, the energy system, that's what it is. And the spirit is whispering to the ego personality, please do this, please don't do that, please go here, please don't go there, please wear this, please don't wear that. And the spirit gets drowned out. And so energy testing, you know, whether you're dowsing, muscle testing, finger twiddling, okay, or moving beyond that into the whole body testing. And when I test stuff when I'm out and about, I'm buying stuff, if I'm thinking of renting a car or something like that, I just look at whatever it is and I will see, am I taking a deep in breath? Does it feel like I'm going to smile? In which case, what I'm thinking of doing, go and do it. And if I get any kind of contradictory signals, move on, you know, buy something else, go somewhere else, rent something else. There's no point in renting cars and buying food and wearing clothes that is damaging your energy. Okay, there's no point bringing objects into your house that is damaging your energy. And belief underpins a lot of this. So I believe this and I believe that. Well, a belief can be a foreign energy. It's a societal thing. It's a family thing. It's a childhood trauma thing. And beliefs affect us. So remember, you are not your emotions and you are not your beliefs. You know, feeling is healing, but we move beyond to become the observer of the feelings. I wonder why I feel this. I wonder why I believe that. Okay, so that's when you really start to motor and make progress, and that's how you evolve as a human being. And for those who might be interested, and we do the one-day workshops in all of this in the UK. We've got some dates coming up in Monmouth in Wales and Glastonbury in October, and then in Dorset near where Andrena is in early November. We're looking at, well, I've got an evening workshop tonight. I go out locally and I meet with local people, do 2 hours every Thursday evening to help local people begin to get to grips with this. We also do stuff online. And the really detailed workshop it's a 3-unit one. It's over 3 days at the College of Psychic Studies in London. They haven't run those at the moment with everything that's been going on, but they will resume at some point. But anybody who's interested in one-to-one coaching sessions, okay, you know, please give me a call. I can look at the pictures of your house. I can see what's going on in the room behind you. Somebody put up earlier on, yeah, glasses on your head. Absolutely. Putting glasses on top of your head, really, really not good. Even your glasses, have you got energy ascending or energy descending glasses? It's a common one I get. You know, the material of the frame will affect the energy around the eyes, the color of the frame. And because we're not body energy aware, we just don't notice these things, or we think we're getting old, or we think we've got a bit of eye strain, it's a bit too bright today. And in fact, the headache that you've got is being caused by the shape and color of your glasses. And just because they were okay a year ago doesn't mean that they're okay now. And if your prescription's out of date, yeah, your eyes won't integrate with the lenses properly. But if you've got the wrong lenses, it will contract the energy around your eyes and forehead. So keeping your prescriptions up to date is very, very important for your energy.
Fascinating. I can't think of anything else. Obviously, working with the chart, the Feng Shui chart, which people can get from you, because yours is slightly different in that yours is in the star. Is it the 8-pointed star?
That's right. Yeah.
I've got it over there. So that would be a good starter, and obviously to find out where your north and south is, and then just do little tweaks in each corner, like bring some red in that corner. Was it your wealth? And you know, just make little subtle changes, make a start by doing it that way.
That's it. It's like everything else. You don't eat the elephant in one bite, as they say. It's making small changes every day. They add up. I mean, saying to yourself, oh, I'll spend 1 day this month totally doing my house over, generally doesn't get the results that you want. So it's, you know, doing the sky stone pose, facing south for 2 minutes every day. At the end of the month, you've done a lot of 2 minutes facing south. You've changed that security and respect energy. Walking around your house, noticing where the clutter is in the house, often referred to as geopathic stress. I have this very true but very amusing story that I had a colleague in Scotland when I lived there 5-6 years ago, who had a husband who had some terrible constipation issues, and he had many different interventions, mainstream and alternative, and none of it ever worked out. And I used to do just little bits of light release work on him to help along. And on this day, I did a bit of work on him. And the following day, I met his wife and I said, how's so-and-so? And she went, oh, he's a little bit better. I said, so what's he doing at the moment? Just making conversation. And she said, oh, he's at home. And he's just, I've got him clearing out the back passage of all the newspapers. I went, whoa, just say that again. Just say exactly what you said again. He's in the back hallway of the house where he just won't throw out newspapers. I said, go and tell him to get every single box out of the back passage. And the following day, I got a phone call saying, oh, we can't keep him out of the toilet. So you know, in Feng Shui terms, you know, your house is a reflection of you. You walk around, you look where things are. Where have you got stuff stuffed in cupboards? Where have you got stuff piled up? Okay. Where is there stagnant energy flow? It's just a reflection of you. And yes, putting something red in the sort of the south of a house, that encourages security and respect and success. what would I do with energy testing? I would test what is the best red thing, because it might be a picture, it might be a plant. In this case, in this room, it's a red vase. Outside of the room, I've got a red Japanese acer tree, but I tested which was the appropriate red thing to put there. You can't just put any old red thing, you know, because you might have the right color, but the color might be in the wrong form, the wrong shape, or the wrong material. And when you've got energy flowing, okay, you kind of just know what needs to go there. And the testing is more of a confirmation rather than trying to find out what it is. And yes, when you start out, it's slow, it's laborious. Okay, there are many times you don't have to test, but gradually the burden changes and you don't need to test. You just know what needs to go there. And that knowingness is actually an expansion of energy. You can't learn this intellectually. And it's the same with Feng Shui in general. A lot of Feng Shui books, a lot of Feng Shui courses, they teach you rules. Well, those rules are not absolutes, because the one thing that's missing is you. When you stand in a room, when you sit in your car, when you go to your workplace, the presence of your energy changes the energy in that space. And we can change your energy by changing what's in the space, or we can change, if we can change the space by changing your energy. It's a two-way flow. And that's the great thing about this. It's a great adventure. It's a great way of discovering, you know, great aspects of life potential, things that you just never thought of before. So you can energy test where to put your money. What's the best bank account or building society? You can energy test where to live. Okay, you can energy test where and when to go on holiday, when to sell a house. There are many Feng Shui concepts you can work with here. Testing with what we call the fortune mudra, looking at the sky above where you live. Okay, so when things are not working out in your life, if it's big things not working out, work's not working out, relationships not working out, you may no longer be living under a welcoming sky. And therefore options would include moving. That's expensive, time consuming, but that's what you might need to do. You're not in the right place anymore. But of course, there are Feng Shui remedies that could be applied that might then buy time, or what we say, prop up the sky. It lifts the energy up of the sky where you are to allow things to resume. So lots of aspects to this, okay? Body energy testing, environmental energy testing, spirit energy testing. They kind of encompass every aspect of energy and spirit awareness, which is why it's the way of the spirit. Okay, it's the journey of the spirit into all these things.
Brilliant. Well, I think that's enough to be going on with for today.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. You know, so much information, and obviously, you know, you could spend hours and hours testing this, that, and the other. And obviously, you have to start off small and just work in areas or whatever. So, so I'm looking forward to when are you in Glastonbury next?
We're doing the workshop Monmouth on the 15th of October, Glastonbury on the 16th, and then today was looking at maybe coming down your way to Dorset on Saturday the 5th of November. It's a one-day workshop. It's an introduction to energy testing, all right, muscle testing, energy testing with oval pendulums, and we can match you up to the right material and the right shape. And then we'll ask you to bring some things with you to test, some foods, supplements, toiletries, books, CDs, images of your house. Okay, and you know what it's like, Andrena, there's always stuff that people are wearing. There'll be some jewelry in the room, there'll be something somebody is sitting on that's interfering, and we get lots of real living examples. You know, no two workshops are the same when it comes to the individuals, right? There's always something interesting in the room that we're in. There'll be a picture on a wall affecting somebody, and it becomes experiential learning. I'm not asking anybody to believe anything I'm saying. The whole point of the workshops and the one-to-ones is for people to experience this themselves and go away with practical things, tools that they can actually apply and use that fundamentally change their life.
And I like the bit about the wine. I mean, I'm not a drinker. It just affects me big time. So I just don't drink. But I like how you're saying about drinking, like France for up the northern side and south, like obviously the Australian, they've got masses of wines down that way, haven't they? So
that's just one example of one client
many
who had terrible abdominal problems. That's what we traced it back to. It was like, unfortunately, if you're going to drink red wine, you're going to have to drink it from the northern hemisphere. Anything from the southern hemisphere was just reverse spinning the chakras at the abdomen, causing the running to the toilet and the IBS. That's what was causing it. It was just the wine came from the wrong hemisphere. That's what that individual sensitivity was. And it's great when you find a solution for someone and say, oh, you don't have to stop drinking the red wine, just change the brand that you're drinking. That's how unique it was for that individual.
Right. Okay. Well, that was great. So people can email you or get in touch, to get the charts and to book in to do workshops or sessions. So, yeah. So thank you once again. Absolutely fantastic.
Thank you very much.
I need to go back and go over a few things and
That's great.
put more into practice from the last time. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Andrena. Thanks, everybody who was listening. Thanks for Jeff. And Jeff, enjoy. I know you're off to do something pretty amazing now, so thanks very much for allowing me on the show again, and really enjoy what you're going to go and do.
Yeah. So, Jeff, are you going to tell people where you are next week? What you're up to?
Yeah. Well, you can lead the...
Well, you're in Hervey Bay, and you're going to be on a whale trip. Next week's show is going to be coming live from the boat, sharing what you've done over the week, the highlights of seeing the whales, and the crew that you're with, and how it's all going.
Yeah, so 7 days. We leave tomorrow and get back next week, last Friday. Yeah, so done it last year, but this time we're more prepared. So now we've got underwater hydrophones, so we can actually listen to the dolphins and whales. Apparently the whales, this particular microphone can pick them up 16 miles away. Yeah. So imagine going to sleep at night and having the sound, or you can if you sleep on the deck, they come around the boat, you know, and you can hear them breathing and all that stuff. But having the speakers there, you'll be able to pick them up during the day when we're at anchor, or even at night, which obviously at night when you can hear them. Oh, it's going to be awesome. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah.
I'll be with you in spirit, eh? All right.
Yeah,
well, thank you very much, and thanks to everybody that's listening, and look forward to sharing with you next week.
Yeah. Hang on, so there's a whole lot of people just coming straight in to say hello. Yeah, boom, boom. I'll just do that. Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you very much, folks. Hang on. Okay. All right. Love your work. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.